This is The Drive with Dale Lolley and Matt Williamson on your 24/7 home of the black and gold. SNR, Steelers Nation Radio.
And welcome to The Drive. I am Dale Lolley. He is the Matt Williamson. I hope everybody had a merrier Christmas than the Pittsburgh Steelers had yesterday. They lose on Wednesday 29-10 to the Kansas City Chiefs, and it was a lackluster performance by the Steelers, to say the least. All three phases of the game, they were beaten,
outplayed
in that football game, and it's a tough 3-game stretch. You get a little chance to regroup.
That's
here.
an understatement. It's a tough 3-game stretch, but wow, I mean, you'd like it to have gone a little better,
a little bit better,
yeah, no doubt.
Maybe if they would have had, say, the Giants to open this off and kick this thing off, it would have been a little kinder to them. But
a week 14 bye wouldn't have hurt.
Week 14 bye wouldn't hurt.
Didn't do the Texans any good.
But you lost. At least they got they get the win in their first game of this stretch, though.
Yeah, true.
Because they got but it is what it is. I mean, you can't lose. You can't continually lose the turnover battle.
No,
to good teams.
No, not to the top teams in the league.
No,
and that's what these three teams are. They're the top teams in the league.
And that's the way it goes. That's what happens when that happens, and and you can't lose the turnover battle decisively, where it turns into a 29-10 loss.
I mean, one of the things that stood out to me the most, possibly in this game, no matter what unit was on the field, the Steelers made more self-inflicted wounds. Now that doesn't mean they're going to win every one of their one-on-one matchups in the trenches, or running back corner, or running back versus a linebacker, wide receiver versus a corner, tackle versus an edge guy, whatever. But this was a really clean played game by Kansas City in terms of mistakes made. They missed an extra point. That's about the only thing I could come up with. A penalty here and there, but I mean, no blown coverages. Go into the right guy.
They had
ball coming out.
They had 9 penalties.
They did
I was surprised by that. And there were some things that the Steelers, like the Chiefs, were 3 of 10 on third downs,
which are like historically great.
Yeah,
third
they're
down team.
51% coming into that game. The Chiefs averaged 3.5 yards per carry in that game. The running backs did nothing, and that was with a 12-yard Mahomes scramble. And
their running game was odd to me because I'm almost certain I made a note of it. And on the first drive, they had like 25 rushing yards, right off the bat. And then we're like, it was
too hard.
Gonna bother.
Yeah, it was too hard. And
we're just
Mahomes
throw against zone. And
that was the thing that stood out to me was it was just a lot of quick passes that kind of supplemented the running game. That
extremely quick passes, and that's what I was saying with sharpness. I mean, that was
2.34 seconds.
It's ridiculous because there's 5 or 6 plays that are probably over 4 seconds, and he extended and whatnot. So I mean, there's a lot of 2.1s, 2.2s.
The ball was coming out quickly
and to the right plate people, and again, that was a really sharp showing by the quarterback, the offense as a whole for Kansas City. And I kept coming back to something that's worried me for a while, but you would think the best counter to that, in a perfect world, if you have the best checkers available, let's press these guys, play man. But without Porter, you don't have the
guy to do that. Yeah,
and then you complicate things by even more with communication issues in the red zone and these zone coverages and things, and losing track of Kelsey, and it snowballed.
Yeah, it was not a pretty performance at all. The Steelers get an opportunity to, again, take a step back now, take a breath.
A much needed
breath, and figure some things out. What you're doing, who you're doing it with, how you're doing it, all of the above. You get an opportunity. It's almost a little mini bye here to, all right, reset this thing like you did after the Browns game, and see where it goes from there.
And you got a test run against a familiar opponent who's also very dangerous, assuming that they are still in it. And
this will be an offense like the offenses that you are going to face in the playoffs.
Yeah, that's what I say. This is a great test run to gear up for the playoffs while you mend some wounds and heal some things. And I didn't watch all of Mike Tomlin's press conference, but I saw snippets and read snippets that he basically said, we sucked and nothing's off the table. That's exactly what I wanted to hear.
Yeah.
Because he wasn't wrong.
No, he was not. Right. Now, I will say this. So I did some research today. And I know everybody, well, the Steelers aren't going to win another game, blah, 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 and all, whatever. All right. In the last 15 years, I'm not even going back far here, there have been 4 instances where the eventual Super Bowl champion went through stretches like this, including at the end of the season.
Really?
Eventual Super Bowl champions. So if you go back to 2009, the Saints lost their last 3 games of the 2009 season and won the Super Bowl.
Okay. It's not like they're just resting everyone and they've got a 4-game lead over the rest of the NFC.
Now, they started 13-0.
Yeah.
But then they lost, and then they lost again, and then they rested
And they
people.
got bad, okay.
In 2010, the Packers, who beat the Steelers in the Super Bowl, 2 different times during that season lost 3 out of 4 games.
Really?
2 different times.
Yeah,
They finished 10-6 that year, and won the Super Bowl. 2011, the Giants lost 4 games in a row from week 10 to 13. So again, later in the season, and won the Super Bowl at 9-7.
It surprises me.
In 2012, again, this is 4 years in a row that the Super Bowl champion
Went through
a stretch.
A real tough patch, yeah.
2012, the Ravens lost 4 of their last 5 games, including 3 straight from weeks 13 through 15. Won a game and then lost their regular season finale
Okay.
to finish 10-6. They then beat the Colts, Broncos, Patriots, and 49ers to win the Super Bowl. And then in 2021, even more recent history, the Rams lost 3 games in a row, also lost their regular season finale to finish 11-5, and then beat the Cardinals, Bucks, 49ers, and Bengals in the postseason to win the Super Bowl.
Sure. And there's a million instances of 4 seed, 5 seeds, 6 seeds getting hot at the right time.
Yeah.
You know, the run Flacco went on. I don't think either one of us are predicting it at the moment.
I'm not predicting it, but I'm also not predicting, it's just going to be, one and done in the playoffs. Or
Right.
Like if they go to Houston.
Houston's in worse shape than the Steelers right
without
now.
a doubt.
If you flipped over to Netflix for your local audience, it was a disaster.
They lost 31-2, and it wasn't that competitive.
This isn't meant to be a cop-out for either one of those teams.
No.
But Ross Tucker's a friend of mine. Him and I used to do a podcast together, and I was listening to his podcast today because Greg Cosell was on, but he was talking about it afterwards. And Ross did the Steeler game yesterday. He was in town. He was here doing radio or whatever. And I thought this 3 out of 11 stretch, and he agrees with me, is just brutal on players overall. But I also think, and he agreed with this too on his podcast, that if the tier 1 teams are going to be even more of a stretch over the tier 2 teams.
Funny you mention
in
that.
These kind of stretches.
Because I just wrote this for my 5 thoughts tomorrow, 5 for Friday. In games like that, we have a 4-day work week. It accentuates
the difference,
the Jimmies and Joes more than the X's and O's.
Exactly.
And when you've got Patrick Mahomes,
or Lamar,
or someone of that ilk,
right?
Your Jimmy and Joes are going to be a little bit better.
Yeah,
they just are.
It's like your superheroes get a little more super, and the average people get a little more average.
You don't get the game plan. You don't get to spend the week going, okay, here's what we want. We want to attack this guy, and here's when they do this, we're going to do that. You don't get a chance to do that stuff.
Yeah, I really liked Ross' perspective on that. And then where I was going more so with what his conversation was, where I looked at it the total opposite going into a Christmas Day game. I thought, man, these road teams are at such a disadvantage. You're going to be, on your phone with your kids, Daddy, where are you? We got to open presents, blah, 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 blah. Ross saw it as a player. He's like, no, being a home team on Christmas is horrible because, frankly, you're rich. You're probably the richest person in your extended family. You're not from Pittsburgh. So mom and uncle and niece, they all come to your house. And you got to deal with it. And, he's like, I would much rather be the road team. I get on a plane. I don't hear from anyone for 24 hours. I get home. The tree and festive and eggnog, win or lose, is so much easier. Now, I think Houston and Pittsburgh lose that game on the road or in Antarctica. But I thought about it from a totally different perspective after hearing a player's opinion of, this is a business trip for me. I don't have to deal with all the nonsense at home on Christmas, getting my aunt from Mississippi up to Pittsburgh or wherever, all the real life stuff.
It's an interesting perspective on it. I hadn't thought about.
I've always thought the opposite.
Yeah. And again, nobody is making excuses here for what the Steelers have done in the last 3 games. Not at all.
No.
They lost the games.
They've lost bad. They're an inferior team, yeah.
But, I just think in this particular – if you're playing – here's the other problem with playing 3 games in 11 days.
There's a million of them, and I think
a lot
it's frankly
of them,
wrong.
If you're playing
for all
well,
4 of those teams,
you're fine.
Yeah.
If you have some stuff happening on your roster with injuries or guys that aren't performing, maybe who knows for whatever reason aren't performing as well as they had, you don't get a chance to correct that.
You get hit hard. You
don't get a chance to fix what's going wrong with your team. So when you have tackling issues against the Philadelphia Eagles, well, you get 2 days of practice before you got to go play the Ravens.
And they're not even real practice.
And they're not even real practices.
Right.
Then you have issues, again, you stopped the run against the Eagles, but you didn't stop the run against the Ravens. Well, you don't get a chance to correct that necessarily. So, maybe you sell out a little more to stop the run against Kansas City. We got to stop that run.
Yep.
And you talk about it all week. You don't get a chance to practice.
So I pre-recorded a show with Merrill Hodge and Pursuta that'll air later today on DV. Check it out. It's always good. But Merrill had a great point. He's like, so this defense has an issue right now when opponents go to trips.
Yeah.
And they're 3 to one side, whether it's a bunch, any kind of 3-by-1 sets, and all these teams are motioning to trips, and the Steelers are not adjusting. And we kind of said, that's not the hardest thing to adjust to. But you have no time to adjust to it over 11 days, and you're playing against A.J. Brown and Mahomes.
And you got 2 of those, you have travel days mixed in.
Right.
And you got 3
I
game
know
days.
this is a problem. Everyone knows it's a problem.
5 of the 11 days, 12 because you count the
yeah.
So 5 of the 12 days that you had were spent either traveling or playing the game.
Mm-hmm. Like I bet Houston's saying the same things. Like, boy, we can't pick up a blitz to save our life, but we don't have any time to fix it. We know it's a problem. Everyone on the planet knows it's a problem.
Yeah, anybody who's watched the games can see what's happening.
Right. And these aren't excuses. I mean, but I just think that it's wrong to play 3 and 11.
Here's the thing. There's a difference between excuses and reasons.
Right, exactly.
Like, and that often
you should
gets
still block better. You should still not throw interceptions, of course.
That often gets clouded. And I get, well, you're just making excuses. No, I'm giving you the reason why this stuff is happening. It's not making an excuse for it. It still shouldn't happen,
I
but
think
it does.
We offer that as insight of being close to the team to realize, man, they got a problem, and they know that's a problem, but they can't fix it because they don't make time, or things like that. So I remember even hosting. We always do a show the second the schedule gets released. And we all knew 3 and 11 against these teams is going to be brutal. But I remember talking about that specifically, and all your AFC North games are, in 6 or 7 weeks combined. I'm like, I sure hope Lamar's healthy for all of them, or Burrow, or Watt, or Garrett, or not knowing how good the teams are going to be, but it just so happens Myles Garrett's out for 4 weeks, but they're all division games.
Yeah.
It's like, well, your season's shot.
Here's, just to keep this in perspective. So the Buffalo Bills, who we both think is a good football team.
No doubt, right.
Played Houston and Baltimore in back-to-back road games. Guess what? They lost them both.
Yeah.
Badly.
Yeah. They're
badly.
One of the best teams in the league.
Yeah.
Right.
Because it's difficult to play 2 very good teams in a row on the road. That's why you don't want to have to go on the road necessarily in the playoffs.
Yeah, exactly. Doing 2 or 3 in a row against
it's difficult.
high-quality teams is a losing proposition in this league, no matter what almost.
So I know we both picked the Steelers. We both picked the Steelers to lose the first 2 games of this stretch. So not a surprise. We both picked the Steelers to win yesterday. Kind of just because, can they lose?
I didn't have great reasons.
Yeah.
I mean, some of them were, I think the edge guys will kill those tackles. I didn't think the ball would come out in 2.2 seconds.
Right. 2 seconds or most of the plays.
And that's phenomenal work by the Chiefs.
Any team in the league would have lost at least 2 of those games.
Oh, I think so too. I mean, if you ask the Chiefs to do the exact same stretch, or the Ravens had a different one. I don't quite put Houston at the same level as the Eagles, Ravens, and
but
Chiefs.
Eagles, Ravens, Chiefs.
Yeah.
You take any of the other 29 teams.
Lions, Bills.
They're going to lose
Packers.
at least 2 of those games.
Probably, yeah. Especially playing several road games before, not having to bye for a long stretch beforehand. Yeah, I mean, if you could, I know it's 3 games, but if you could get 500 out of that, you'd be thrilled. I mean, because that's awful.
Oh yeah,
awful.
It was a terrible stretch, and so the Steelers do still have a chance to get to 11 wins, and if they can do that,
it's hard to see the light through the trees, and I'm not saying there's bright light shining and everything's going to be fine and we're all going to sing in unicorns and rainbows. But still, the most important thing is winning the Super Bowl, winning playoff games, and you got to stretch, and then you get the Bengals, and then you're going to at least have an opportunity to do that.
I mean, I've been doing this long enough that I remember
you got to fix some things.
When they fell to 7-5 in 2005, they lost 3 games in a row to fall to 7-5 and out of the playoff spot, and they needed to win. They had to win their final 4 games to get into the playoffs.
Not a lot of those instances where it's like, and you need the Jags to win, and these guys don't have to tie.
You need help to get in.
Right.
You go to Cincinnati in the first round of the playoffs. They're underdogs in that game. They find a way to win that game. You go to Indianapolis, to the number 1 seed in the second week of the playoffs.
This is Peyton Manning. Colts,
actually, I think they might have been the 2 seed. Whatever they were
superstar team, though, yeah.
You're playing Peyton Manning, who destroyed you in the regular season.
Okay.
That game wasn't even remotely competitive, and they find a way to beat the Colts in that game and then beat Denver to go to the Super Bowl and win it. I can when they lost that third game again to fall to 7-5, the world was burning.
Oh yeah,
it was on fire.
Right.
It was over. This
fire
team,
everybody.
14-1 last year, and look at this. They're not even going to make the playoffs.
What an embarrassment. Blah blah blah. Right.
Things happen.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean that's what's going to happen this year.
No.
Changes are going to have to be made on what they're doing, who they're doing it with, and how they're doing it.
Yep.
But it is possible.
It is. And I don't think they're as talented as the Ravens, Eagles, or Chiefs. And I do think Jimmy's and Joe's are going to, the way you said it, I think is 100% true, that in a condensed environment, I get 3 days to prepare, 1 real practice or whatever. That's a problem. Like I'll go to battle with Magic and Jordan if you have, you know what I mean?
But they don't play playoff games in 3 days.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, now from this point on, you're back to normalcy at least. The guy that's playing with a bad ankle, that might be healed by Cincy. Or you sit him for Cincy and it's fine for week 1 or, whatever. And the blown coverages and, frankly, Wilson needs to get the ball out a little quicker and, execute the offense a little bit better. And I'm not trying to candy coat things, but Cam Hayward was awesome in that game. They ran the ball well in that game. And I'm not even talking about the last stretch where
they were running the ball well before that.
The second quarter was well played by the Steelers. It's not all terrible. And I keep going back to this conversation we had with Merrill because it's fresh on my mind. And his first thought was, one team's making mistakes, the other one isn't.
Right.
And you compound that with a talent gap.
Yeah.
Forget about it.
You can't afford to do that.
If you can be the team not making mistakes, and the other one, you force a mistake or two, or all these fumbles, if you happen to pick one up, that's just bad luck too. I mean, which compounds things too. That's how this game goes. But it's not pretty at the moment. No one thinks it is.
No, but it can be turned around.
Yeah,
There's
it's not
still
over.
time. They don't need to back into the playoffs this year. They're not waiting for something else to happen to get into the postseason because this is the same team that started 10-3. That was kind of the Deshaun Elliott talking about it yesterday and said, "Look, this is the same group of guys. We get the same group of guys in here that were playing well earlier.
Game, yeah.
There's no reason that we can't do that. It's just not happening right now."
And the other thing about previous years is when you have to. I mean, sometimes the playoffs start in early December.
Right.
That's what the Bengals are going through right now. We got to play everyone. If you're 50-50, you're playing. This is a playoff game now. Then you got to win 7 or 8 in a row to win the Super Bowl. Just to even get in, and then you get a bounce, and that's a hard way to live. I mean, they're not in that situation.
Yeah. So we'll see how it goes here. They got a week and a half here basically to prepare to face the Bengals. We'll see what kind of changes come out of all of this stuff, and we'll see. It might not be something that you see.
No.
It might be just schematic changes on how you're doing things. A lot
of it'll be like, well, let's change our communication on the back end and call it something different. Not like you're not going to see, wow, we're just going to bench Minka. That's not what's going to happen necessarily. They're going to change the way they approach their problems. This trip problem. Well, we're going to always go to cover 2 or whatever it is. We're going to bump this guy over. Okay, it's simple, but most guys, myself included, won't notice the changes.
Yeah.
Right?
So
I don't think it's going to be wholesale. They're not benching the quarterback and TJ Watt,
Yeah. Anyways, he is Matt Williamson. I am Dale Lolley. You're listening to The Drive here on the Steelers Audio Network. Matt and I will be back with more right after this. And we are back. I am Dale Lolley. He is the Matt Williamson. And Matt, with the Steelers' loss yesterday to the Kansas City Chiefs, the Chiefs clinched the number one spot in the AFC playoffs. And I wonder how that affects things moving forward in terms of...
could have a ripple effect in the AFC.
Yeah, because right now, Baltimore is you have Buffalo at 12-3. They can't. They could technically still catch. Well, no, they can't catch the Chiefs. Chiefs only have one game left. What am I saying?
Nobody gets Chiefs.
They can't catch them. Buffalo's at 12-3. Baltimore's at 11-5 in the 3 spot.
Mm-hmm.
Houston's at 9.
They lost head to head, or Bills lost.
The Bills lost head to head to the Ravens, so they need to play this week as if they're
right. They could go 0-2.
Yeah.
The Ravens go 2-0, and then you go from 2-3.
Yeah. Then you have Houston at 9-7. They're in the 4 spot. They can't. They've clinched the division. Yeah. They've clinched the division. So I wonder, what they do in terms of.
I don't think they can get to 3.
Right. They can't get to 3.
Right.
They've lost to the Ravens, and they're 2 games behind them, so they can't get to 3.
So they're gonna be the 4 no matter what.
Yeah. The Steelers right now are 10-6. Here's the thing, though. The 2 teams behind them are the Chargers and Broncos, who they've both beaten head-to-head. Now, they could still finish behind one of those teams if they get to 11 wins.
Right.
So, and unless you want to go to Buffalo or Baltimore.
No, I think you definitely want to go to Houston.
Yeah.
Definitely. Real quick, let me stop you super quick. Do you think Houston has 2 more games, as we know, but they have a nice
They have one more game.
Well, okay. They have a nice long break before it. Do you think they rest everyone for that?
Yes.
I do, too.
I think they sit people out, and there's nothing to be gained for them
right.
by playing anybody in Week 18.
Agreed. What do you think the Chiefs do, though? I mean, they have 3 weeks until their next game, right? I mean, it's with the bye. Do you play them some? Do you play, you don't rush Chris Jones back?
No.
I mean, anyone that's on the fringe, but it's a long time to sit Mahomes and Worthy and Hollywood Brown who's starting to find himself. I don't know how much I'd rest those guys.
Yeah, I think they kind of play maybe a half, something like that in their next game. This weekend I expect Buffalo to play to win.
And then maybe shut it down. If they win, then put it in neutral for a week.
Obviously, the Ravens need to win based on what the Steelers do.
Mm-hmm.
And I expect both of those teams to play their guys.
Yeah.
And obviously, the Chargers and Broncos both need to win. If the Chargers and Broncos win this week, it's over.
In terms of who's in
the
and
playoffs
who's not.
are set.
Right. NFL would hate that.
Now
There'd
the
be
only
a lot of sitting around at Week 18.
The only thing that would be then decided would still be who's going where in the first round.
Yeah, but we know the 7 teams for sure. All that has to happen is a Bronco win and a Charger win.
Yeah, because the Broncos would officially eliminate the Bengals
do they both play Saturday? I know Denver does.
Denver does. I don't believe the Chargers do, but the Chargers play the Patriots. Chargers play the Patriots.
I think they're the early game Saturday.
Are they the early game Saturday?
So we might know all that stuff before Sunday kickoff.
Yeah, they are.
I'm getting blurbs on my phone. CeeDee Lamb's getting shut down for the year. It's starting to be that time of year for some of these stars.
So we could know by Saturday what's going the teams that are in.
Saturday evening, yeah.
Because, again, the Chargers play the Patriots.
And they're like a 4.5-point favorite, yeah.
Denver goes to Cincinnati.
They're a 3.5-point dog, but we'd know a lot.
Yeah.
Denver gets Kansas City, I think, in Week 18, which would probably be a shell of the Chiefs.
Yeah.
If it comes to that.
So it's going to be interesting here to see what happens with those particular games.
It's really starting to shape up quick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Things could really be decided by Saturday.
Mm-hmm. And Bengals obviously need to win, and they could at least do damage to one of those teams. But Colts and Miami are in a world of hurting too.
Yeah, they're actually in better. They're in better shape than
than
Indianapolis or than Cincinnati.
They have better tiebreakers.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. But no, it hasn't gone great. But if you're a 5 seed and going to Houston, I don't mind that one bit.
No.
Play it from there. I mean, Houston's a mess right now, but I'm sure if we were doing Texans audio network, we'd be like, well, they need the break, and maybe they'll get some things figured out too, and They are a talented team, but
here's the thing:
it's been a rough year for Houston.
The Texans opened the season 5-1.
Yeah, hot.
So they're now 9-7. So just some simple math tells me they're 4-6 in their last 10.
Mm-hmm. And they've lost Tank Dell, and they're picking up Deontay and the O-line.
It kind of actually coincided with when they lost Stephon Diggs.
Yeah. That was their plan because Dell wasn't himself then too.
Right.
They've never been a really small stretch. They've never really had all three of their guys at the height of their power. Nico missed a stretch there too, and that's what they were built to do. And a lot of times they've had one.
Yeah.
Which you thought they had an abundance of receivers.
Very similarly to the Steelers, though. I mean, you start looking at some of the stuff there. Like, they lost a turnover battle in the 2 short week games they played, 3-0. They had 2 turnovers against Kansas City, didn't force any, and they had 1 yesterday against the Ravens and didn't force any. Not that it would have mattered in that game, but
no, I mean
they lost to the Chiefs 27-19 and lost the turnover battle 2-0.
Yeah.
Like.
Chiefs have been real clean with that stuff.
Yeah.
Houston's also taken a ton of penalties. They were almost the second team to get shut out if it wasn't for a safety.
A safety.
A safety is the only points on the board.
Yeah.
I mean, you think things are miserable around here. They're worse in Houston.
Yeah. They're the team that turned the Lions over 5 times and lost the game.
Yeah.
Like, that's really hard to do.
That must have been a penalty fest and no running game, can't close teams out. Those have been their problems.
Yeah,
and their pass protection is really bad.
So yeah, that's where the AFC stands right now. It's pretty much decided.
It's pretty close.
And we'll know a lot more Saturday night.
Yeah, I wonder if Seth Walder or Cynthia Froyland or one of those guys that projects this stuff, what % chance do we know even the 7 in order? I bet it's pretty strong.
Yeah, because the Chargers have they have the sweep over Denver, so they have the tiebreaker.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, it seems highly unlikely for it not to go 1 through 7. Chiefs, Bills, Ravens, Texans, Steelers, Broncos, Chargers.
Yeah.
I mean, that's probably what will happen.
Chargers, Broncos.
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 Yeah.
If you look at the NFC, it's a little more interesting, although
at least there's division races still going on.
Yeah.
And tonight's game matters.
Tonight's game matters a ton.
A lot.
You've only got 4 playoff spots clinched, which means that the Rams at 9-6 are leading their division but haven't clinched yet.
Mm-hmm.
The Falcons at 8-7 are leading their division but haven't clinched yet. 2 of the wild cards are already decided with Minnesota and Green Bay.
Mm-hmm.
Washington currently, if they get a tie in their final 2 games, they clinch.
Okay.
At least a tie.
They're going. Yeah,
they're
right,
probably
yeah.
going. So those are settled. But then you got Tampa Bay sitting there at 8-7 and Seattle at 8-7.
The Lions haven't even clinched the division yet.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, like the best division.
The Lions could fall from leading all season long.
Right.
To being the number 5
I think it could be all
wild
the way
card.
to 5. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Philly's fine, but Hurts has a concussion and Pickett's hurt. They might start McKee this week. I mean, you would think that all gets cleared up by the playoffs, but all of a sudden the 2 mightiest teams are the ones that are dealing with the most injuries too. South got really exciting with the Cousins benching and Tampa losing to Dallas. Seattle, is this a must-win for them? I know it's
they have to win this because
Okay.
the Rams are 9-6 right now. So if Seattle loses to fall to 8-8
tonight,
the Rams would just need to win one of their final 2 games.
Okay.
And they play.
I think they have an easy one coming up this week.
They have the Cardinals and Seahawks.
Oh, okay.
So
Yeah.
if they beat the Cardinals this week, then and the Seahawks lose tonight, that becomes a moot point.
That's a done deal. So
Yeah.
they're a big-time favorite in the West now.
Yeah.
And the Cardinals, they play the Cardinals this week, right?
Yeah.
Because the Rams are like a 7-point favorite, 6.5 or whatever. But I was just seeing, even since I saw that line, Cardinals put both their offensive tackles on IR. I mean, it's like some of these teams ain't what they used to be. That's like my CeeDee Lamb conversation. Like, boy, Dallas is fighting, but now if you're shutting down your best guys, it's a heck of a lot different.
Now, Atlanta this week has Washington in Washington.
That's a huge game.
Huge game.
And a fun game. I think it's Sunday night.
And then they get the Panthers.
Who have everything to play for.
Yeah.
I mean, they're not going to lay down.
So it's.
Do we know Penix is good or not? I mean, he was impressive after 1 week, but you don't know that yet.
We don't. Can Atlanta's running game carry them past Washington?
I don't know. I bet they're a dog. Where's that game? Do you know?
It's in Washington.
I assume they're favored by 3 or 4, something like that.
Yeah, I would assume Washington is favored. So I mean, Tampa Bay's looking just going, okay, we got to.
Tampa losing to Dallas
that was a killer.
Kick in the head.
That was a killer.
Yeah.
They get the Panthers this week and then the Saints. So they're probably
should be 2-0. They're definitely going to be 1-1 at worst.
Panthers are dangerous.
I would say Panthers are dangerous. Saints are laughing stock at this point.
But there's some stuff there that it could still happen in the NFC, and certainly
more unpredictability in the NFC.
I mean, Detroit.
I don't know if Detroit's going to win the division.
That would be. Could you imagine? They're at San Francisco this week.
I'm sure they're favored, but still.
And then
San Fran hasn't laid down.
No,
I mean, they're playing Debo and Kittle, and Bosa played last week. Trent Williams is out, but
and then they're playing the Vikings at home.
That's the key.
Last game of the season.
Right.
If both of those teams win this week, there's your standalone game.
They're 100%. Right. No, the Vikings
winner take all.
Control their own fate. They go 2-0, they win.
Yeah, and they got Green Bay this week. So it's
two pretty darn good games.
Yeah, and the Packers. You want to look at the Steelers and say, well, they lost all these games to all the good teams on their schedule.
Not true.
Which isn't true.
No.
They've beaten some
last three were
Yeah,
right.
the last three have been. Here are the Packers' losses: Eagles, Vikings, both at home, by the way. Although the Eagles game was in Brazil.
Oh, that was week 1.
Lost to the Lions at home. Lost in Detroit, and that's their 4 losses right now.
Like the best teams in the league.
Their wins, they've beaten the Colts, the Titans, the Rams, early in the season before the Rams were healthy.
Yeah, they're better now.
They beat the Cardinals. They do have a win over the Texans, 24-22. Okay.
Yeah.
But that was at home. They beat the Jaguars. They beat the Bears. They beat the 49ers at home, but that was everybody was out for the 49ers in that game. Beat the Dolphins. Okay. Lost to the Lions. Beat the Seahawks in Seattle. That's a nice win. That's the nicest win. That's their best win.
Mm-hmm. And all their losses are respectable losses.
Yeah.
Too. They don't have a Raiders one on there or something like that.
Right. But if they had played, let's say, for example, they played a stretch where they played the Eagles, the Lions, and the Vikings. 3 games in a row.
Went 0-3.
And went 0-3. Would people be saying, team's garbage?
See, I was going to bring that up for the Vikings just now because they play, Packers-Lions.
Yeah. If they lose both of those games
by 30 points total, lose them both, does that mean they're dead? I mean, were they a joke all along?
Yeah.
I don't probably see it that way. We'll see how they play out, but they could easily go 0-2 here. And that's a tough stretch.
I mean, any team, you look at any team's schedule. Again, I mentioned Buffalo in the first segment. Like when they played Houston and Baltimore on the road back-to-back and got smoked in both of those games. Well, they didn't get smoked against Houston, but they got smoked against. They got crushed.
They got destroyed by the ball.
They got one of the worst beatdowns of the season. Nobody's saying that's a bad football team.
Right.
I mean,
it's a lot of recency bias too.
There's a ton of recency bias, and so.
And frankly, if the Steelers would have started the season with these 3 games and done everything else since, they'd be 4th in the power ranks. And I understand.
The Steelers are on a roll, and they're
right.
Yeah. I mean, that's just how it goes. I understand.
How it goes, of course.
It's always about recency bias.
Yeah.
I mean,
what happened in week 1 doesn't matter much anymore.
Every time I see somebody tweet out something about this guy's the best player of whatever, I'm like, Barry Sanders exists, like best college football player ever. I'm like, Barry Sanders exists.
A lot before you.
Yeah. There's a lot of dudes out there. Earl Campbell was a thing,
Exactly, right. It's funny you brought up Earl Campbell. My 18-year-old asked me, is Derrick Henry like the hardest guy to tackle in NFL history? I'm like, no. And he's like, well, give me a couple. I'm like, well, Bettis. He's like, okay, I remember Bettis enough. I'm like, Earl Campbell. He's like, you'd rather tackle or Henry all day than Earl Campbell? I'm like, times 1,000. And Henry's awesome, but
you stand up and like, look at me. Earl Campbell's thighs were as big as my waist.
Right. I mean,
now imagine running into that.
This league is seen as remarkable, right?
So any time that somebody tweets something like that out, like this guy's the best this, and it's always somebody, or they'll tweet out a list of here are the 10 best college football players. It's 10 guys from like the last 5 years. I'm like, come on, man.
Easy, yeah.
Recency bias is a thing. I get it, but you might want to do a little bit of homework.
Yeah, I mean, that's what makes sports so great. I mean, there's so many great teams, players, traditions, before all these guys do. Stand on each other's shoulders.
Yeah, but
this playoff stuff's interesting, but AFC's maybe not that interesting anymore. It might be pretty darn settled.
It might be pretty settled, and I think that the top 3 teams are the top 3 teams, doesn't mean that you can't beat any of them.
No, right.
I mean, the Steelers do have a win over the Ravens.
Yeah.
This season. Somebody came at me on the message board on our YouTube channel. Steelers haven't beaten a good quarterback all season. I'm like, really? They beat Lamar. They beat Burrow.
Yeah. They're pretty good.
Those guys are pretty
two of the top 3 or 4 at the moment.
Yeah, right. I mean, who's better than those 2 guys right now? There aren't many.
Right.
And they beat them.
Yeah, they have.
So,
yeah, it's not over yet, folks. I know times are gloomy, and the Grinch is out. I totally get it, and I understand.
They deserve all the vitriol.
Yeah, that's
here's the other thing. Don't come at Matt and I. We didn't play it down to this.
Right, shooting the messenger.
And guess what? Nobody over at the facility listens to what we have to say about anything.
Not one bit.
Like, hey, nobody comes to Matt and say, hey, Matt, you were a former scout.
Right.
What are you seeing that's going on here?
No, not even a little.
And he'll say, hey, Dale, you're here at every practice. What are you seeing? No.
Yeah. A different podcast I did, I got a comment today. You picked the Steelers to win this game. You're an idiot. I'm like, okay, that's fine. I mean, I don't have a crystal ball. I don't get every game right.
I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing if I did.
Right. But, so be it. That's fine. I'm used to it.
Yeah. But, Matt and I didn't play it down.
No.
We didn't coach anything. We didn't draw up the game plan or anything like that.
Just trying to present the way this is going for you.
Yeah.
For them.
And it is what it is.
It's not great right now.
No, absolutely. But we're going to get to another break. He is the Matt Williamson. I am Dale Lolley. You're listening to The Drive here on the Steelers Audio Network. Matt and I will be back with more right after this. And we are back. I am Dale Lolley. He is the Matt Williamson. And, Matt, I couldn't help but thinking yesterday, I was watching Xavier Worthy play. I'm like, how would the Steelers season have been had they drafted? And I love the Troy Fautanu pick.
Oh, yeah.
I think he's going to be a great
super
player.
High hopes for him, right.
Unfortunately for him, he got hurt.
Yeah,
he's played one game this year for the Steelers and got hurt.
They've got nothing out of him. I mean, we know that, right? And unfortunately, I know you brought up a receiver for a reason. Roman Wilson, also you haven't got anything out of. So you've gotten the double whammy at that spot a little bit.
Yeah. How different would their season have looked if the Steelers had drafted him, or if the Steelers had drafted Brian Thomas, who went 3 picks after them, or if the Steelers even had drafted Quinion Mitchell?
Mm-hmm.
For that matter,
Dejean, or got something out of a first-round pick. I think is your point here. Not
really,
Fautanu's bad.
No, I still have high hopes for Troy Fautanu.
Yeah,
I think he's going to be a great player in the NFL, but he's not helping you right now.
No, it'd be nice to have.
Be nice to have that.
Yeah, I mean, how many teams have not gotten really anything out of their first-round pick this year? There's not many.
So I thought we'd look through that first round real quick here, and so. Caleb, we kind of did this last week when every team picked their
power ranking day. A couple days ago.
I guess that was earlier.
That was
this week.
Tuesday. Yeah, that was only 2 days ago. It seemed like a week ago.
Yeah. So Caleb Williams, they've gotten a lot out of him with Chicago. Jaden Daniels, gotten a lot out of him. Drake May, New England's gotten a lot out of him.
This quarterback class, I am bought in.
Marvin Harrison is
a little disappointing.
It's an interesting. He has 51 catches for 726 yards and 7 touchdowns.
Okay.
In most years, you'd look at that as a rookie wide receiver and go, oh, that's all right.
Quite good, right.
The problem is you've got some of the other guys in this draft who are just blowing up with their teams.
Yeah, and frankly, if you were redrafting, I don't think he'd be wide receiver 1. I'm not sure he'd be wide receiver 2. Not certain he'd be wide receiver 3. I'm definitely taking Thomas and Neighbors over him, and I think you can make a case for McConkey.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not saying he's a bad player, but he didn't run a 40, and he doesn't look super fast, and he's a good prospect, but he's not a transcendent prospect, like everyone thought he was.
Yeah, I think the Chargers are happy with Joe Alt, although he's had some rookie growing pains.
Tackles are never going to blow your doors off in year 1.
Giants are happy with Neighbors.
Yes.
At 6. Tennessee with J.C. Latham at 7.
He's been up and down too, but he's at least a building block.
Michael Penix, the book is
and
still
by the way,
written.
both those tackles had to switch sides.
Right.
So compounded matters. Penix, right now they're very happy they made that pick and didn't take Dallas Turner or whoever.
Roma Dunzier for Chicago at 9 has 51 catches for 701 yards and 3 touchdowns.
Yeah, but he's passing the eyeball test. Keenan Allen's really been picking it up lately.
Yeah.
Their pecking orders, he's still 3 as a rookie, but Allen's a free agent after the year. I think they're quite happy with the pick.
J.J. McCarthy is kind of like Falatanu.
That's exactly.
Where you've
Carbon
gotten
copy.
Yeah. Olu Fashanu for the Jets, they just put him on IR. His season was over.
When he got hurt again,
Yeah. Bo Nix, obviously Denver is happy with that pick. Brock Bowers, same thing.
Pretty good first round up to this point.
Yeah, really is.
Yeah.
Talisi Fuaga.
He's done well.
Yeah, I think.
I didn't think left tackle was him at all, but he's done quite well switching sides.
Letu with the Colts has 4 sacks this season. I thought he would be more impactful.
Yeah, he was my preseason defensive rookie of the year because I thought he was much more NFL ready.
Not going to happen.
No. He'll probably be 6th in the voting. You know what I mean? Like, he's not going to be a top few, but that doesn't mean it's a bad year.
Byron Murphy with Seattle.
He missed some times, but I think
he's played in 12 games.
Yeah.
But he's a solid player. Dallas Turner with Minnesota.
He played a little this past week, but they have really eased him back.
Yeah. Amarius Mims with the Bengals.
I would say they're happy. He'd probably outkick this coverage if they planned on redshirting him the whole year. I mean, that wasn't the plan for him whatsoever. Right. But the guy ahead of him was also super injury prone. You can't be shocked that he went down.
Can't be shocked, yeah.
Yeah. But I think they got a long time starting right tackle at a minimum.
Yeah. Jared Verse to the Rams at 19.
Star.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not saying he's going to be one of the best guys in the league, but he's probably going to
They're happy with that pick, yeah. Then you had Falatano at 20. Mm-hmm. Chop Robinson.
It's amazing he fell that far.
Yeah. Chop Robinson to Miami at 21.
Last month or so has been really good for him.
He's
I think
up to
they're
6 sacks now.
Quite happy with it, yeah.
Quinion Mitchell at 22.
Great.
Brian Thomas at 23 to Jacksonville.
Great.
Terry and Arnold with the Lions.
I think you chalk it up if you're in his corner that rookie corners struggle a lot and take a lot of penalties.
Yeah, he's taking a lot of penalties.
A lot of guys around him getting hurt, but they're not out of the woods on that one.
No. Jordan Morgan with the Packers.
I assume he's been a starter start to finish.
He's only played in 6 games.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
So I don't know his story. I mean, he started the season, I think, as one of the starting guards. Is he on IR too?
I believe so.
Okay, that adds up. So I haven't heard that name since in a while. I forgot all about him.
Graham Barton with Tampa Bay.
Really good.
Yeah.
Really good. I mean, they may rather have Frazier, but they're not complaining with the guy they got.
Arizona took Darius Robinson at 27. That hasn't worked out. He's only played in 4 games.
Yeah, I think he came back like a week or 2 ago.
Yeah.
So total incomplete grade.
Xavier Worthy.
Stepping up lately.
Yeah. Tyler Guyton at 29 to Dallas.
Up and down, and he's had a little bit of injuries too and had to switch sides.
Yeah.
That's an incomplete grade.
Nate Wiggins in Baltimore.
I would say good, not great.
Not great.
Yeah. Not great.
Ricky Pearsall with San Francisco.
He's been a ghost.
Yeah, 17 catches for 190 yards.
Yeah, I mean, even though I don't know how healthy he truly is, but after getting shot, but I mean, he was not stepping up in any way.
Yeah. Then you had Xavier Legette to finish out the first round at 32 to the Carolina Panthers.
Been okay.
41 for 439 and 4 touchdowns.
Mm-hmm. I don't know how many games he's been into. I think he's missed 3 or 4.
Like that's kind of the kind of numbers there that I thought Roman Wilson might have this season for the Steelers.
Mm-hmm.
I know people were, well, he's going to be their number 2. I'm like,
I looked at him as a 3.
Yeah, let's not.
I wasn't sure who the 2 would be at the time, but I didn't expect Wilson to be the 2.
No, nor did I.
I am encouraged for next year, though. I don't know what Wilson is, but Wilson and Austin, I'm glad they're around.
Viable.
You know what I mean? Yeah. Right. I mean, one still has a lot to be written. Austin has written a lot of his story. They're both smaller, so my wide receiver acquisitions probably won't look like them.
Right.
You know, but we got that part squared away, I think.
I'm just looking at some of the other picks beyond that, and Keon Coleman in Buffalo has been.
All those end of round 1, not McConkey, but from Worthy to McConkey, there was a ton of picks.
Not great.
Polk's been terrible.
Yeah.
McConkey's the one I'd take first by far of that group.
Really, if you start looking at the second round, it's the McConkey, Jerzon Newton, Tavondre Sweat.
I'm shocked Sweat's as good as he's been.
Braden Fisk has been good. DeJean has been good with Philadelphia.
You're just looking through the hits.
Yeah.
Frazier.
Kamari Lassiter's been
he's come on strong too.
I don't know about Jackson Powers Johnson. He starts, but Edgerrin Cooper's been good.
Cooper's really been a revelation lately. So I'd say it's an average second round, not maybe some stars in there.
St. Istrel's been fine.
Yeah. And I think Lattimore
Frazier's
being
been
back
good, yeah.
will help him.
Beyond that,
Who was the last one you said?
Zach Frazier.
Oh, okay, obviously.
Donnie Mitchell has done next to nothing.
Yeah, weird situation. There's a lot of mouths to feed with a quarterback that doesn't complete passes. But, I mean, I'd love him to be on the Steelers roster at the moment, but he's an incomplete grade.
Yeah. Javon Bullard to Green Bay has been pretty good.
Yeah.
Cole Bishop is starting to do some things for Buffalo a little bit.
Pick it up, yeah.
And then, Renardo Green with San Francisco has had to play a lot, but nothing special.
Yeah, I think they're happy enough with them. But.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's been kind of the first round was, I think, really good.
It was heavy, top-heavy draft.
Yeah.
Obviously, the offensive guys ruled the day. Quarterbacks ruled the day on, day one of the draft. I think it could. I would say it could be a historic quarterback class. By that, I don't mean Rivers, Ben, and Eli. You know, like Hall of Famers galore, or even Herbert, Burrow, Hurts, Tua, Love. I mean, that's maybe 2 Hall of Famers in there and 3 really good ones. But the league needed this class. You know what I mean? After the Pickett class and what looks like next year's class is going to be really light. They might look back at this and be like, well, there's 5 quality starters in that group. Of
course, we also, 3 years from now, we could have a completely different.
Oh, they might all be on different teams. Sam Darnold and right, yeah.
Just how that goes.
Mayfield's been on a bunch of teams.
Yeah,
right.
Absolutely.
Mayfield was Rookie of the Year.
Yeah, right. He was the best of that group. Let's get to a break. That's going to do it for hour number 1 of the drive here on the Steelers Audio Network. Matt and I will be back with hour number 2 right after this. And we are back. I am Dale Lolley. He is the Matt Williamson. And Matt, with the weird scheduling this week, with Thursday game, 3 Saturday games, then your Sunday games and Monday games, I thought we'd do a full week starting tonight and taking it through Monday. DFS lineup for the fantasy football segment. So it allows us to talk about a bunch of different players as opposed to just playing tonight's game or something like that.
And there's already 4 teams that are substantial that are off the docket.
Yeah.
So.
And we'll do tomorrow. We'll just do a Sunday, Monday DFS lineup. So we'll have 2 different lineups.
Okay, that's fine. That works.
Anyway, so let's look at the lineups this week. So you get the Bills. Start with the defenses as we always do. You get the Bills at 3,600 against the Jets.
I don't think I'm paying up for that. I don't like the way their defense has played lately.
You got the Colts against the Giants at 3,500.
That's not bad.
The Chargers against the Patriots at 3,400. Buccaneers against Carolina at 3,400. Vikings against the Packers at 3,300. Lions against San Francisco at 3,300. Dolphins against Cleveland at 3,200.
Who's the quarterback?
In Cleveland, though. I don't think it's going to be DTR.
I think it's probably Winston.
Yeah. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Dolphins on the road, though. Rams at home against Arizona, 3,200. As you said, they
don't have any tackles.
They don't have it, yeah.
Connor's very questionable.
Yeah.
This is a really, unfortunately, it's Super Bowl week for everybody, but
right.
There's a lot of big dogs getting shut down. There's a lot of questionables. Who's going to play,
The Commanders at home against the Falcons are 3,100. The Eagles against Dallas, 3,100. Jaguars against the Titans are 3,000. Seahawks tonight against Chicago are 3,000. The Bengals against Denver are 3,000. Saints, why would the Bengals defense be more expensive than Denver's defense in that game?
I was thinking the same thing. I was going to say, what's Denver's going to be? Denver's is really good, but they're putting up points.
They're putting up points, but you're still going to get sacks and things of that nature.
Denver's got a good D.
The Saints against Las Vegas are 2,900.
Yeah, okay.
I'd rather play Las Vegas's defense.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, I'd say, what's that one?
Broncos against the Bengals on the other side of that are 2,800.
They're not too far off.
The Titans against Jacksonville are 2,800. The Bears tonight against Seattle are 2,800.
I think we definitely go cheap. There's a bunch of these that aren't bad.
The Bears' defense is number 1 in the league against opposing quarterbacks.
Really?
They do not give up anything through the air. You can run against them.
Yeah.
But you can't pass the ball necessarily against them. And I don't know, Seattle's offensive line is all kinds of banged up.
It is. Bears D hasn't been great lately, but that's a good point.
They're at home.
Yeah.
On a short week.
Could be kind of a nasty field, too. Who knows? I don't know what what kind of weather we're expecting tonight. But I don't hate that.
The Packers on the other side of that game against Minnesota are 2,700.
D's been playing well, but I could see a lot of points.
Not against
they've
been playing garbage. Falcons against Washington are 2,700. The Raiders against the Saints.
I think that's a move.
Are $2,600.
I really don't even care who the defense is. Like whoever's playing the Giants and Saints.
Saints aren't breaking 20 points in that game.
No. I mean, I don't care that Crosby doesn't play. That's a good one.
Yeah. Now, it's in New Orleans, I get.
Yeah, I know. But the fans could turn on them, too.
You could also start the Cowboys defense against Kenny Pickett. $2,500.
Might even be McKee.
Right.
I mean, if it's Hurts, I think you get out of it.
It's not bad. Like,
I mean, it's cheap.
Yeah.
I think I like the going against. I think I'd take the Raiders.
Okay. I don't have a problem with that. I mean,
I would definitely go with one of these cheaper ones.
Yeah, it doesn't make a lot of sense to pay up because some of the teams that you're paying up for are bad defenses.
Like Colts. Right.
And they're on the road, and So why not the Raiders?
Yeah, it's a good spot.
Why not? They're playing hard. They won last week.
You get to play the Saints.
You get to play the Saints. That's the big thing. At quarterback, you want to go quarterback or tight end?
All right, quarterback's fine.
All right. Josh Allen is 8,500 against the Jets. Could be the last time you get to see him this year. They're at home.
Yeah, he's fighting an injury, though.
Coming
off a down one.
Jaden Daniels, 7,800. Jalen Hurts is questionable, 7,500. Joe Burrow, 7,200. Denver is fifth against opposing quarterbacks, and they get Riley Moss is back at cornerback.
Yeah, it's big.
Baker Mayfield against Carolina is 6,900. Need to win that game.
Right.
Jared Goff, 6,800. Sam Darnold, 6,400. Brock Purdy, 6,300. Bo Nix, 6,200 against that Bengals defense.
Mm-hmm. I mean, you're probably going to have to throw to keep up, too.
Yeah. Jordan, and he'll run.
That's
that's not bad. Jordan Love, 6,200. That game could be a shootout.
Yeah, I think it will be.
Kyler Murray, 6,000.
I think they're my favorite two so far, Nix and Love.
Anthony Richardson, 5,900. Justin Herbert, 5,900. Tua Tagovailoa, 5,800. Drake May, 5,800 against the Chargers. Matthew Stafford, 5,700. Aaron Rodgers, 5,700. Caleb Williams, $5,700. They are he hasn't turned the ball over.
No, he's got weapons.
And they can't run the football.
No, it's not a bad defense he's playing, but he sets up pretty well for fans.
Yeah, I mean, they got weapons.
That's pretty cheap.
He runs. That's way cheap.
Do you like him better than Nix and I forget who was right now? Love.
I might like those guys a little bit more.
But for the buck.
I mean, Caleb Williams is...
He still has a lot to prove. Keenan Allen's playing well. Put him in.
Yeah, Bryce Young at 5,600, even cheaper, against Tampa Bay.
Yeah.
They just played a few weeks ago. Bryce Young against Tampa Bay put up 23.62 fantasy points.
He's been productive.
He had 298 passing yards in a touchdown and ran 3 times for 17 yards in a touchdown.
No, he's running 3 or 4 times a game, give or take.
Yeah, I mean, he's run the ball actually more than that recently.
Do you like him more than
5.3, 7.33? Yes.
Yeah.
I don't hate it.
Yeah.
I mean, for the Buck,
the Bucks have to be low against quarterbacks.
Yeah.
On the list,
but they're going to put up points. Williams and Young are going to put up points in those games.
I agree.
Which one do you
like better? They all have
better?
good weapons. Maybe just go the cheaper one.
So Bryce Young. I don't think we'd be starting Bryce Young at this point.
Right, day after Christmas.
But again, I think when you look at his production over the last 5-6 weeks, 27.12, 15.9. I guess he had a couple of down games.
He's more roller coaster than you might think, but you would think his wheels would keep his floor a little higher. But
I think I might like Caleb Williams a little bit more just because of that.
Okay,
well, he's a
little bit of roller coaster too. That's
a little bit.
What I was referring to.
Yeah, I guess. But his roller coaster is on the road though.
They're terrible on the road.
Yeah, Bryce Young at home has been. See, his last several home games, 26.76.
You talking about Williams or Young?
This is Williams, 27.76 against Detroit. They played Minnesota at home. He had 29.9. They played Green Bay at home, Well, that's his low point, 26 or 16.24.
Let's put him in.
Yeah, I think the floor at home for him, there's a big difference there.
For whatever reason, they're so horrendous on the road.
They're a definite team that home road splits are
something to be aware of.
Okay, so running back. Let's go tight end.
Let's
get
get
the
tight end.
standalones here. Brock Bauer, 6,700. I think they're trying to get him.
Yeah.
A
No,
record.
I think they're trying to give him the ball.
Trey McBride is 6,200.
O'Connell didn't play bad.
No,
by the way.
he's fine. We never got to him. They're playing the Saints.
Mm-hmm.
McBride is 6,200. George Kittle, 6,000. Detroit is number 2 against tight ends.
Are they?
Jonnu Smith is 5,700. Sam Laporta, 4,900. Big drop-off there after those guys. Njoku is 4,700. Hawkinson, 4,500.
I don't mind the Njoku. They feed him no matter what.
He's questionable.
Yeah, is he?
Yeah.
He played last week, but yeah, he was questionable.
Kincaid is 4,300. Cade Otton, 4,200. They're 28th against opposing tight ends. Hunter Henry is 4,200. Brenton Strange, 4,000. They're 5th against opposing tight ends. Tucker Kraft, 3,900.
What are they against tight ends?
11th.
Kraft's a good player.
Yeah.
I always hesitate to jump on their pass catchers for DFS because you always pick the
too
wrong
many.
one.
Yeah,
Right.
too many. There's a name on here that I want to get to.
Okay.
Kyle Pitts is not it. Cole Kmet is not it. Zach Ertz is not it. Will Dissly is questionable. Jake Ferguson is 3,700. Chig Nwankwo,
He's been hot.
3,600. He has over 20 targets the last 2 weeks.
Yeah. He should not be that low.
He should. He has 21 targets. He has 140 receiving yards on 17 catches the last 2 games.
Let's fire him up.
I mean,
I bet he's super chalky, but that's.
I'd rather have him in the lineup than not.
Right.
Yeah, when it's that chalky.
Yeah.
Yeah, at 3,600, that really.
I've always liked him as a receiver. There's been some inconsistencies, but I like the player.
Playing the Jaguars and Mason Rudolph starting. And the Jaguars embarrassed them at home a couple of weeks ago.
Jags back 7's not good against pass.
Yeah. Running back, you're looking at Saquon Barkley at 8,600 against Dallas.
I'd consider it.
And, yeah.
I don't love it if it's McKee or Pickett, though.
That's the problem.
Right. I mean, it helps your tush push and short touchdowns.
Yeah, you're going to get the touchdowns. Yeah.
Yeah.
Jameer Gibbs is 8,500.
I get that 100% too and wouldn't have a problem with it.
Bijan Robinson is 8,200.
Looks great.
Josh Jacobs, 8,100. Minnesota is 3rd against opposing running backs.
Are they?
So, yeah. Jonathan Taylor, 7,900. They are playing the Giants, are 29th against opposing running backs.
Coming off a crazy big game.
Yeah.
I don't think you're chasing points.
They need to win the game.
Right.
Devin Achane, 7,700. Cleveland is 5th against opposing running backs.
This was one of his best games, but I don't love that one.
Chase Brown against Denver, 7,600.
I'm sure they're high, but he gets a higher percentage.
They're actually 16th against running
Really?
backs. Yeah, it's not.
I mean, his usage is almost insane. I mean, it's way higher than any other back in the league.
Kyron Williams against Arizona, 7,500. They're 26th against opposing running
Wow.
backs.
He should be more expensive than that.
Yeah, I mean, he gets all the touches.
Yeah. Doesn't get a lot of carry or catches, but that's okay.
Yeah. James Conner is 7,400.
I think he's highly questionable.
Kamara is 7,300. James Cook against the Jets is 7,200. Chuba Hubbard against Tampa Bay, 7,000. Bucky Irving on the other side of that is 6,700. And
Does he have a questionable?
no, Carolina is 32nd against opposing running backs. And again, Tampa Bay needs to win the game.
I would have a hard time not putting him in the lineup.
Yeah, I think you just
Yeah,
plug
put
him in.
him
He
in
might
and
be
go.
chalky too.
Sure.
Everybody against Carolina at a running back position is going to be chalky. but
Right, a must-win type of situation. That's your best guy.
I'd rather
they
have
run
him-
the ball really well.
rather have him than not. Isaac Guerrero, 6,500. He's questionable. Tony Pollard is questionable. He is 6,400. And, of course, the Jaguars are 31st against the run.
I'd rather look at Spears.
Breece Hall, 6,300. Buffalo, 30th against opposing running backs.
Wonder what's his snap counts been. I don't think they've been low.
No,
I don't
he
think
played.
they're like saving him or anything.
No, I think they might want to get him to 1,000. He had 14 for 52 last week. He had five catches on 6 targets for 38. So he's getting the ball. It's only 20 times a game. The week before that, he was banged up.
I know there's been injuries.
Yeah, but the catches are, you go back to the Colts game, 7 targets, 7 catches, 4 targets, 4 catches. He just gets
pretty
the ball.
consistent.
Yeah. Aaron Jones is 6,200. Brian Robinson is 6,100. Kenneth Walker's on IR. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, that just happened.
Rico Dowdell, 6,000. Phillies second against the run.
I'd be interested in Charbonnet, though.
Zach Charbonnet, 6,000 in tonight's game. They're 28th against opposing running backs. I said
when Walker's out,
they're a run funnel team.
I think that's the move.
All right. So we got the quarterback and the running back from the other team in tonight's game.
Okay.
So
yeah.
It is what it is. Okay, let's move on to wide receiver. We can average 6,350 here the rest of the way, so we can still pay up for a wide receiver if we want. Jamar Chase is 8,400. I don't like that this week.
He'll get Surtain, though.
I assume he gets a Surtain treatment.
Or he gets doubled and Surtain takes Higgins.
Yeah. Justin Jefferson, 8,300. Green Bay is first against opposing wide receivers.
Really?
Yeah. Puka Nacua, 8,000. A.J. Brown, 7,800. Don't know the quarterback situation.
Yeah,
stinks.
I said Puka's kind of intriguing me.
Amon-Ra St. Brown, 7,700. Mike Evans, 7,500.
I'm sure he'll be fine.
CeeDee Lamb, you just said they shut him out. Yeah. Terry McLaurin, 7,200. He's questionable. They're 30th against the pass. Devontae Adams, 7,100.
They've been feeding him like crazy.
Yeah, he's questionable. Tyreek Hill is questionable. There's a lot of Qs here on the wide receivers.
Yeah,
Tyreek Hill is 6,900. T. Higgins, 6,900.
Don't love that either with Moss coming back.
Brian Thomas Jr., 6,800. They're third against opposing wide receivers, though.
Really?
Yeah.
He's productive every week, though.
Malik Neighbors, 6,600.
I don't care who the quarterback is. They throw him the ball a ton.
Lad McConkey, 6,600.
I don't mind it.
Playing
he has
the
no
Patriots.
injury designation anymore,
Yeah,
right?
no. Jerry Jeudy, 6,500. Cooper Kupp, 6,500. Drake London, 6,400. He is questionable as well, as is Jeudy. Cortland Sutton against Cincinnati, 6,300.
Wow. I like that a lot.
I don't see.
Right. We considered Knicks. I mean, the balls go to Sutton.
That's where they go.
Yeah. No, I like that a lot.
Yeah.
You want to pop that one in
I'm
there?
plugging it in at 6,300.
Okay.
That's too good to be
That's
true.
right about our budget anyway.
Yeah. Jordan Addison is 6,300. Again, they're number one against pass.
Good, though, yeah.
Jackson Smith and Jigba is 6,200. They're sixth against opposing wide receivers.
Yeah, they get good corners.
Garrett Wilson against Buffalo, 6,100.
He's been complaining lately.
Squeaky wheel.
Yeah.
Squeaky wheel.
That seems cheap for him anyways.
Yeah, well, he hasn't been getting the ball as
He
much.
hasn't been getting the ball.
They threw it to him in garbage time last week. I think he gets the ball this week.
I'm fine with it.
Yeah.
He's an easy one to convince me on. I love the player.
Jamison Williams is 6,000.
He's been pretty good lately, too.
Jacoby Myers against the Saints is 6,000. They're 25th against the pass.
Yeah, I'm sure they are.
Jaden Reed, 5,900. They are 32nd against opposing wide receivers.
One of their receivers is out, I think. Is it Watson?
Watson is out.
Is out, okay.
Yeah.
That clears things up a little.
Yeah.
I don't mind Reed. I don't mind Myers.
DJ Moore could be our stack tonight, 5,900.
In fact, you haven't mentioned Keenan Allen. He's been the guy.
He's been on fire.
Yeah.
Juwan Jennings is 5,800. Detroit is 31st against opposing wide receivers. Devonta Smith is 5,800. Keenan Allen is 5,800.
I think you go yes on that. That's a nice stack.
And we have 7,200 left. I wouldn't even mind going DJ Moore with the stack in that.
For the third receiver, not as a flex.
As our flex. Or we could pay up for our flex. We can get James Cook, Terry McLaurin, Devontae Adams, Chuba Hubbard, Tyreek Hill. These guys all have they're all questionable.
Guys. I don't like that neighborhood.
Yeah. We may be able to pay up a defense if we really want.
I don't want to pivot off Chig.
I don't either. We could pay up a quarterback, but we've already put Keenan Allen.
Yeah, so we're already stacking.
We got a nice stack there.
Is there a running back or receiver we could upgrade to?
I like the Bucky Irving call. I like Charbonnet tonight against.
Yeah.
I like both of those.
So let me regress here. We have one spot for amount of money that we don't love the flex for.
Right. So we could go Brock Bowers at 6,700
As a flex.
as a flex. We can get Neighbors. We can get Lab McConkey, Cooper Kupp, Pollard.
Do you prefer Neighbors or McConkey?
London, Breece Hall,
Breece Hall's not bad.
Jordan Addison, Brian Robinson.
Neighbors and McConkey kind of stand out to me. There's not much target competition for those guys.
What has DJ Moore done? He had 7 for 68 last time out. He had 10 targets. His last 5 games, 10 targets, 8 targets, 8 targets, 16 targets, 7 targets. He has 7, 8, 6, 8, 7 in terms of catches. Now, the yardage total is
They'll hand it to him once in a while.
68, 46, 49, 97, 106. But he scored 2 touchdowns in that stretch as well.
Mm-hmm.
And we got the quarterback in the lineup.
I don't mind being super
We're double
invested.
stacked there.
Yeah.
They can't run the football.
No, not at all.
And I don't think they're going to run the football against Seattle.
I think they want to develop Williams too and get him as comfortable as possible.
So if we do that, then we have 1,300 left over. We want to pay up on defense. We can go get the Bills' defense against the Jets. We can get the Colts against the Giants.
I think I prefer the Colts.
The Chargers against the Patriots.
It's not bad either. It's in New England, but
Yeah.
it's not bad. Should be sacks.
Should be sacks.
I'd say Chargers or Colts. Who's the Giants starter? Is it Locke still?
Yeah, I know he's hurt.
He's horrible.
Yeah, he's hurt and he's horrible.
Yeah.
Other than that, he's
I
fine.
know that's the beauty of it.
Yeah.
Right? It's not that I love the Colts defense.
I mean, I like the Chargers defense better than the Colts defense by a long
Times
stretch.
1,000. They're both pretty bad offenses.
And for the Patriots to win, they're going to run the ball, which is going to keep the score down.
Yeah. Ramondre fumbles a lot.
Ramondre fumbles a lot.
Let's do Chargers.
Okay. That still leaves us with 500 left over. Or do we want to try to pay up? Let me check.
If we
one
go
thing
back to that defense.
Let me check one thing here.
Pay
before
up
we do it.
on
So put
Charbonnet.
the Raiders back in. If we pay up on Cortland Sutton, he was our most expensive receiver.
Okay.
It's
Maybe
63.
we can go get a real big
a
dog.
stud. We can get Mike Evans.
Oh, I'd prefer
at
Evans.
7,500.
That's the move. I don't love the. It's fine moving up on the defense, but I didn't think that gained us a
Doesn't-
ton. Yeah.
Yeah,
I'll
you're
go
talking
get-
about a difference of maybe 2 points.
Mike Evans is on that 1,000-yard crusade.
I don't know how close he is, but they
I
got
think
2 games left, and he's got.
I think he's in striking distance.
He has 818 yards. Yeah, he's playing Mike Evans.
He's going to get the ball.
He is going to get the football.
Yeah.
That only leaves us with $100 left. I think we
Yeah,
can
just
eat
eat
that.
it, yeah.
So we got Caleb Williams at quarterback going tonight.
Okay.
Bucky Irving and Zach Charbonnet at running back. Mike Evans, Garrett Wilson, Keenan Allen at wide receiver. That's 2 weeks in a row we've had Mike Evans and Keenan Allen in the line. They hit for us last week.
Right.
Chigan Kwankwo at the tight end position, $3,600.
Good.
DJ Moore in a flex at $5,900. And the Raiders defense at $2,600.
Playing the Saints.
Playing the Saints.
Yep.
There you go.
Yeah, I like it.
Locking
that
it in.
sucker up.
Locking it in. And we are in. There we go. All right, we're going to get to a break. That's going to do it for the Fantasy Football Focus. A lot of decent matchups this week for championship week.
There's some scary ones
some
with
scary
injuries
ones,
and stuff too. Like, don't always dance with who brung you. You got to be able to
Sometimes
pivot
you
off
can
some of these stars.
We're playing this week. I picked up Chigan Kwankwo.
Yeah, I don't blame you. It's a good move.
I mean,
He's getting the ball a lot.
yeah, so why not? I'll take the targets. But anyways, let's get to a break. He is Matt Williamson. I am Dale Lolley. You're listening to The Drive on the Steelers Audio Network. And we are back. I am Dale Lolley. He is the Matt Williamson, and this is The Drive on the Steelers Audio Network. And Matt, after yesterday's game, the 29-10 loss to the Kansas City Chiefs, Mike Tomlin intimated that there would be some changes.
Yeah.
Either
It sounds
what they're
like
doing, how they're
nothing's
doing it,
off
who they're
limit.
doing it
Right,
with.
right,
Nothing
right.
is off limits. So I have some ideas on some things I would do.
Okay.
Maybe we'll go back and forth here. I'm going to go first. One thing I would do is I would strongly consider putting Minkah Fitzpatrick in the slot.
I was thinking that too. I love his usage as a deep center fielder. but I think KZ can do it.
Yes.
And we have.
I think KZ on the field is better than what they're doing in the slot right now.
I see what you're saying. Would you rather have KZ out there? Who's your best 11? Would you rather have KZ out there or the slot situation, which isn't pretty at the moment? And make it close to the ball, better run defender. We've seen a lot more of him not in deep middle the last couple games, and that's not why they're losing, folks.
No.
Right.
Like he's making plays all over the place.
I think that's a real good one. And then basically make him the slot.
Yeah.
He's never come off field.
When they're in the base defense, he's in deep center field. He can be your.
He's
your free safety.
Top 4.
When you go to when you're playing 13 or 11 personnel, I should say, he's playing the slot.
It's a good one. Yeah, I'm all for it.
I mean, to me, the slot has been a big problem.
Huge problem. Yeah,
not just in this recent stretch, but really all season.
It's probably been the weakest part of the defense since week 1.
Yeah.
I mean, and which nobody was shocked about. You throw an undrafted rookie out there from the beginning, hoping Sutton's time comes, and it doesn't look like that's a successful plan at all, to say the least. I'm not even sure if Sutton will be in the league next year. I mean, he doesn't run very well. Maybe he'll have to be a safety, and is anyone going to do that? And
I'd rather put him at free safety and just
and then in the slot. He might even be better at free safety than the slot at this stage of the game, too.
Yeah.
Communication's been a problem with him. I like it. I'm all for it. I would go with Warren as my top back.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that one's the low-hanging fruit. I just think he's the better player, fresher legs, more explosive, better receiver. Now, it wouldn't be 100%. That's not how that position works.
No.
It'd be a 2-to-1 ratio or 75-25.
At the very least 60-40, which is kind of what it's been the last couple of weeks, just because of the way the game script has gone.
You can dismiss it because they're losing. He's a third down back, and there's definitely some of that. But there's also been instances where I think on 1st and 10 and neutral script, Najee would have been out there and isn't now.
I did see this, though, today when I was looking at some stuff. Warren didn't run into a loaded box once yesterday.
Doesn't surprise me. I mean, that whole is night and day.
Whereas Najee was like 10% running into an 8 or 9 man box.
Okay.
And that's kind of one of the problems that they have.
That's how it's been this whole career.
Right now with Najee is that when he is out there, you're seeing single high and 9 guys in the box. Like it's just not setting up well for him to run the football. I don't even mind putting him out there on some third downs. And
here and there,
it's 3rd and 4, and they're gonna go to their nickel or dime. I'm gonna run Najee up the middle,
and he can play. He can stand up in protection versus blitz, or you can dump it to him on the screen, or those type of things too. Yeah, but I think on more neutral stuff, I want more Warren for sure. Yeah. I just think he's a more effective player. Right now.
I think so as well.
I've always been a massive Warren fan. I don't know what his workload threshold is. I don't think any of us do, and it's a concern. But I think he's your second best skill guy.
Yeah.
It's your turn. I don't really have another. I mean, I have some things I'd consider or flirt with.
Yeah. A lot of it depends on, is Joey Porter Jr. back for the next game or not? And the people out there saying Joey Porter Jr. doesn't matter. Or he stinks.
I think it's
How do you feel about it now?
Yeah, right. I think it's similar to Pickens versus the other receivers.
Yeah.
I really do. I think that room is one guy and the pips, I mean, and that includes Jackson. I've been down on Jackson for a while. I mean, I think he's okay, but he's better when Porter's out there.
Yeah.
I forget who I was listening to, and I never thought of this in my whole life, but Surtain, Gardner, Stingley, I think most people consider them the top 3 corners in the league. And I'm not saying Porter's quite to their level, but all those guys got so much better when Reed, the Texans' first pick in the 2nd round, who's played really well.
Lasseter.
And the dude that comes back for Denver.
Moss.
I don't know why I always forget his name. But you don't think about second corners influencing number 1 corners, but it has a lot more say than that. If you need your Alvin Harper almost, to be the star's complement.
That's why I don't have a problem with Jackson. He just can't be your number 1 guy.
I'm not sure if Jackson's good enough to be that too that I want. That's an.
I think you can do better. You can do better there, but
him being out is massive.
If Porter is back, would you consider playing Trice?
Yeah, I would. I mean, there's something especially in the Bengals game.
Yeah.
Like that's a tough challenge. If you lose because of him, that's not great. Or if he gets beat more than you like, that's not great.
But you might find something
But
else
you might
out.
find something out. I mean, and that's a little bit of the GM and me off season ahead. But I want to know everything I can about Trice. I mean, Jackson comes back or not, I don't think there's any way that they go into camp saying Trice is definitely the starter. But it might be Trice versus a number 2 draft pick for the starting job. Or, you know what I mean? And have a couple more options.
So
I'd love to know more.
That's something I would consider.
That's a good one.
But now you're moving multiple spots in your secondary.
But Porter has to be healthy for that. Like
Porter,
you said.
Porter has to be healthy.
Yeah, and you don't want to experiment with that like first round of the playoffs.
Yeah.
So that would be a one-time thing and then go from there. And if Trice I don't know their practice schedule off the top of my head before this weird week, but I would assume he'll get a lot of run with the ones if Porter's not ready for the first practice. He has already.
Now, I will say this. James Pierre started that game yesterday. Mm-hmm. And right after giving up the touchdown to Christian Watson, he got yanked because before that play was snapped, he's out there looking around like didn't know where to line up at.
Yeah,
so there was some of that.
And Pierre has value elsewhere, but to me, Sutton and Pierre don't run well enough. Like obviously a huge offseason priority. Let's get faster on the back 7. Yeah, but maybe your 5th corner doesn't fit that bill anymore. That's who you're playing with.
Yeah.
Do you have any others? Nothing like jumps out off the table.
I would not use Cordero Patterson as a running back anymore.
I wouldn't either. I definitely would not.
Unless it's a situation like you saw in Baltimore where I'm going to throw him a pass against a 5'10" linebacker or
He's
something.
He's not
like
getting carries in crucial moments ever again, probably. I've been saying for a couple weeks it's time to streamline the skill position players, and that means less Patterson, less Pruitt, less maybe even Jefferson. Like if 2 receivers are out there, I want it to be Austin and Pickens. Maybe Skoranek would be my 3rd if everyone's healthy too. I mean, over Jefferson and the others, just because he has some nastiness and that sort of thing. I'm not even saying yes to these. I'm just saying the coaches should at least have a conversation. Like, hey,
I'm sure this is what's happening this week. Hey, what would you guys do? What changes do you guys want to make?
If I'm Coach T, just throw things out there. I'm not going to hold it against you. Just throw things out there.
Let's talk about it all.
Does Peyton Wilson deserve more snaps? I'm not even saying get into Queens. But is he ready to be my Patrick Queen and Queen be my Wilson? It seems premature, but I'm just, again.
I can't make that change in a week,
too
though.
big.
It's too big of a change.
Healthy Fields. Does he get 10 snaps every game, no matter what?
He's got to be healthy first, and I don't know. I mean, he hasn't practiced.
He hasn't practiced
in
for
2 weeks.
Right. I'm running out of ideas, though. I'm trying to think what. And frankly, we talked about this in the first hour. The changes you see aren't going to be this guy's on the bench, this guy got cut.
Right.
You're playing with your guys. You might change the snap counts a little, or this guy doesn't play in nickel anymore, or Minka's your slot.
Minka's your slot, yeah.
That's a great one. But I think a lot of them will be procedural, or how we call this defense, or
when you call this
play
defense,
sequencing, or maybe, hey, Russ, I don't like the changes you're making at the line of scrimmage, or we're going to really stress getting the ball out in 2.5 or less, or they have a weird trend that I don't love. And I'm an Arthur Smith guy, but I think I've really started to pay attention to it the last month. When they throw for a first down, they almost automatically go to a run on 1st and 10 the next play, which I understand why, but these teams are smart too.
They didn't do that against the Bengals.
They didn't do it against the Bengals, right.
And they have been throwing more on first down the last 2 games.
Right. But they have a strong tendency of complete a pass for a first down. All right, get back to the run. It's like they put money in the bank and they're living off that.
Here's the thing about that game yesterday. They had a 69-yard drive.
Mm-hmm.
They had a 72-yard drive. 25 yards then they punted it from midfield, which that play, Pickens caught the ball along the sideline.
Mm-hmm.
A short catch. And the guy kind of stood him up real quick, but Pickens is twisting around to come out of it. The other tackler comes in and knocks the would-be tackler off of him, and they blew the whistle.
Yeah.
And he's running down the sideline.
He was not happy about it.
It was going to be a touchdown.
It was going to be a touchdown. Yep, it was. And I don't kill the refs for that.
They don't blow the whistle when it's a running back in those situations. They don't blow the whistle on a tush-push, and they'll allow you to get there on a second effort.
Yeah.
Like, they blew it too quickly on that one.
They did, and it probably cost the Steelers points or at least a big chunk of yards.
Cost them the halftime lead.
Yeah, that was a big one.
They would have led at halftime in that game. It would have been 14-13 at the half.
That was an error. I mean, there's no doubt about that. You mentioned the long drives. We should have probably brought this up earlier in the show, the first segment, but gave too many short fields to Kansas City.
You can't do that. Yeah.
I mean, we should have.
And Corliss Waitman had maybe his worst overall day.
Yeah.
Kicking the ball. That first one he kicked was
the line drive one.
Looked like something I would have kicked. Yeah, no hang time.
Yeah.
But even at that, 47 yards to open the second half. They got a field goal out of that. Now they had a 3-and-out when they fumbled. Then they got 38 yards, turned the ball over on downs, and then 85 yards on the last one. They were moving the ball reasonably. It
wasn't 3-and-out, 3-and-out. No, not at all. I mean, some of that stuff's been better. And the running game to me has been better. So there's been a lot of mistakes, and you can't make mistakes against these teams. You know, these teams are.
And the sacks. I mean, and when I'm looking at this, I'm watching.
I blame Wilson for the sacks more than I do the protection as a whole.
I don't think it was a protection problem.
No.
I think in some cases
down. Got to come out.
I don't know I don't know who the primary receiver is in certain situations, in some of those instances, but the primary wasn't open, and he didn't have time to get to the second. That or for whatever reason was looking to get out of the pocket. Kansas City had a nice plan against him.
They did, and their pass rush is good. But they didn't have Chris Jones. Their defense coordinator is tremendous, and they did. I think they brought a fair amount of pressure in the game too.
Yeah, he was actually beating. If you saw the stats at halftime, I think he was like, when they blitzed him, he was like 4 for 5 for like 70 yards.
Was he?
Against the blitz? It was the other times.
Teams are going to rush him up the middle, though. They kept harping on the broadcast. Like, the home scrambles were always when the B gap would open, I'm gone.
Yeah.
But if teams are not going to let A and B gaps open.
You know that at this point. So maybe one of the adjustments that you make is to get him on the move more often.
Yeah, it's a good conversation we had with Merrill, too, was I hate speaking for others like this because I'm not going to phrase this 100% right, but he doesn't love Wilson sitting in the pocket, tapping it for 3 seconds.
Yeah.
Because it's a sight.
It encloses on you.
I mean, it's big bodies. There's trees falling around you. But on the other hand, the way Merrill phrased it was, but I love when he's play action booting or, or something quick hitting, play action. And you need your running game to have some substance to it.
They had the running game.
Game's not been really a problem.
They had the running game against Baltimore.
Yeah.
They ran the ball effectively against the Ravens.
I think that was my team-wide biggest concern going into the Baltimore game. Like, I kept saying 3.9 per carry ain't going to cut it. This got to be 4.3-ish, 4.4. Well, that's gotten a little better. I mean,
I think it was like 4.7 against the Ravens.
Yeah, and it was good even before Najee's ripping off runs against backups in the end.
But it was 6.5. I mean, Warren was 6.5. Wilson, when he was effective,
by the way,
6 for 55.
His running's helpful.
Yeah,
just smart. You're not going to
get the first down.
Yeah, yeah. Obviously, you don't fumble, but
it was 6 for 55, and he had a 1-yard touchdown run.
Mm-hmm.
He was getting 10 yards a chunk.
Yeah. He was smart about it.
Yeah.
I mean, I think he's more apt to take off and go, too.
So, I think the running game is something that's going to –
I think the arrow is actually pointing up with the running game. Yeah.
So, but, I mean, I think they do need to get him, even if it's just a little bit of pocket movement, just to get him out away from the middle of that pocket because that's where the problems are coming.
Tough spot. It really is a hard time seeing the middle of the field.
And his arm is strong enough that, even if you roll him out a quarter of the way, he can still make a throw to the other side of the field.
Yeah. I mean,
you're not narrowing things down to just half a field.
It's not a total half field read or any of those type of things. I don't have any other like wholesale changes. I mean, you'd have to be in the building for, boy, we have a hard time getting these plays in, or this communication, or man, this guy's not adjusting to this route, or whatever. I mean, really minutia, type things. You'd have to be real detailed, not minutia, but like deep in the weeds. But I bet some of that stuff's problematic right now. And to your earlier point, it's harder to work on those finer things 3 games in 11 days.
Right. You just don't have the time.
I know this is a problem. I just don't know how to get it fixed because I don't have any time.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean we'll get it fixed, but you at least have a better chance of correcting and attacking the problem.
Saw the frustration there yesterday with they had gotten a bunch of guys back on the defensive back end, and you're still seeing the communication issues. And I think that's where Elliott was going with, like, hey, we get the same guys out here now.
He seemed very frustrated.
Yeah.
Yeah.
These problems should
He's doing his job. Yeah.
He actually said these are week 1 and 2 problems, not week 17.
Yeah. Yeah. It's
Shouldn't
not like
be happening.
You just got a new dude, right? These are guys who've played a lot of snaps.
Yeah. So that's where they're at right now. We'll see if they got the a full week of practice to prepare for the Cincinnati Bengals.
Prepare for the playoffs.
And prepare for the playoffs. You got a couple of weeks to get prepared for that. So you got a couple of weeks to, if you want to make some changes, adjustments, whatever you want to call them, you have time to do that.
I like the Minka one a lot. The slot's been too much of a weakness.
That's to me should be issue number 1 that gets solved.
Yeah,
and that's the way to. I understand you hate having him. Minka, we got a problem here. You got to go there. Minka, we have a problem there. You got to go there, which is kind of what they've done with him the last couple of years. But he's a good player that you can do
when
those
he's
things
one of, if not the best center fielder in the league. You don't ask that guy to play second base, but
sometimes you have to.
Right?
Yeah.
If you don't have a second baseman, you do.
Yeah, right. That's the way it goes.
Yeah.
Let's get to a break. He is the Matt Williamson. I am Dale Lolley. You're listening to The Drive here on the Steelers Audio Network. Matt and I'll be back to finish up the show right after this. And we are back. I am Dale Lolley. He is the Matt Williamson. And Matt, last week, all the days are running together.
Could have been 2 days ago.
Could have been 2 days ago. I believe it was last week. I don't know. But we had the conversation. It was before the Houston game because we hadn't gotten to see Mahomes play yet.
Okay, yeah.
And I said I would rather face an injured Mahomes an injured Mahomes than a healthy Carson Wentz.
Yes.
Now, as I said, when I said that, it would depend on how injured Mahomes was.
He doesn't look too banged up.
He doesn't look too banged up.
Either one of those games.
No.
I mean, he's scrambling. He's getting to,
they
have that metric. He got to 15 miles an hour twice against Houston already. I mean, he's moving fine, yeah.
But I took a lot of guff for that, and I understand it. I mean, but sometimes you bring stuff up on the show to have a conversation.
Of course.
That's the way this works.
Right.
And an injured Mahomes versus a healthy former guy who was a former
good player
in the running for the MVP award. It was a conversation. I also didn't know how healthy at that time Mahomes was. He looks completely healthy right now.
Yeah, no,
even though I guarantee he doesn't
looked,
feel completely healthy.
At the time, it looked kind of critical for him, in terms of
most people don't get up and walk around a week later after taking the hit that he took.
Yeah, he's had a lot of ankle stuff and has dealt with them over the years, but seems to be dealing with it quite well.
He must be
I thought he
Gumby.
was spectacular yesterday.
Yeah, no, he was fantastic.
Yeah, he really
and
was.
Again, just diagnosing
the mental stuff. I mean, he made throws, but the mental stuff was great.
And was able at times, like, manipulated cornerbacks or linebackers or whoever with his eyes. There were several times where it looked like he was going to throw that quick screen pass, the quick bubble screen, and he would fake it, and T.J. Watt would jump in the air, or whoever was coming in would jump in the air, and boom, hit the guy in the slant behind him. Like
moving safeties with his eyes.
It's next level stuff.
It's next level. It's elite stuff. I mean, it's rare stuff. Right.
He was great yesterday.
He was great, and that gives them a chance to win it in the third one. There's no doubt about it. He is a special, special dude. And even Kelsey, he doesn't move like he used to. And congrats to him, by the way. 1,000 catches is awesome, and most touchdowns in Chiefs history in the same day. Good for you. That's awesome. Amazing.
Sucks that he passed Hines Ward.
Oh yeah, I didn't realize
Pittsburgh.
that. Yeah, I forgot about that part. I was thinking more of the Chiefs angle of it all. But he has such a good feel for. I know this is the zone they're playing. I'm just going to drift ever so slightly to,
It
give them
does
the
help when you
proper
actually
angles.
cover him.
That's the thing. And that's, I keep talking about this Merrill conversation because we just had it today. He had a real problem with a lot of those guys just dropping to their spot as opposed to being football players or showing instincts or whatever, because no one's better at being football players or showing instincts than Mahomes to Kelsey. A lot of improv stuff, and we know this is cover 2, and you're supposed to go here, but you're more open if you're just 2 steps to the right, and you got to adjust quick.
Got to play the game.
Yeah, because that ball's coming out.
Yeah, it was coming out quickly.
Unbelievably fast, yeah.
Initially was
and that makes the tackle problem a lot easier for
right.
them.
It covers. So you're going to see that.
That's how they're going to
for
play
them
from
the
now
rest of
on.
the way.
It doesn't matter who they play,
Yeah.
right? And again, if the Steelers had Mel Blount and Rod Woodson out there, you'd press those dudes and beat them up. But without Porter,
you can't do it. You just can't do it.
Yeah, right. You're really shorthanded. But it's a great game plan, and that's how they're going to play.
Yeah. But one way to moving forward to fix that would be put Minka in the slot.
A good start, yeah.
With Porter out there. Now I can press some dudes.
Mm-hmm.
Now I can, get up in some passing lanes and do some stuff.
And some things we haven't seen a ton of, too, is they've been really successful over the years. Those corner blitzes get home quick. I mean, not 2.1 seconds quick, but, Hilton used to get immediate pressure a lot. Sometimes you'd run into a tackle and not get home. But
yeah.
I'd blitz Minka out of the slot
even
once or twice a game.
Even some, linebacker blitzes up the middle and things of that nature.
Mm-hmm.
And I know their interior line is good, but
sure. You got to mix it up though. Too.
You got to mix it up, and you got to make them.
I'm even thinking about games going forward.
Yeah,
more so than what you just dealt with.
Well,
Minka's also
as
pretty
things
good run
stand
defender,
up
too.
now, as things currently sit, if the Steelers would play the Texans in the opening round of the playoffs, the winner of that game would go to
Buffalo, right?
Kansas City.
Kansas City, right. Okay,
Kansas City. So you might have to deal with that again
might see 'em soon.
pretty quickly.
Yeah.
And so you learned some lessons in that game yesterday.
That's what you're hoping for.
That's what you want.
That's
what Steeler fans should want. You want the rematch with the Chiefs. It may not be the most appealing thing in the world, but you just played them.
No one's going to give you playoff wins left and right.
No, it's not going to happen.
Like Oprah, right? Yeah, right.
You get a playoff win. You get a playoff
There's
win.
only 13 of them, right? Start with number one.
Yeah, get the first one and then go from there.
Yeah, and that seems like a ways away too, and it is good. I'm glad it's a ways away.
Yeah, but you got some time in between that to fix some stuff. Mm-hmm. And we'll see what the Steelers come out of their little mini-bye with when they come back next week. But that's going to do it for our show today. So for my partner, Matt Williamson, for Justin Miller here on site running the soundboard and the Justin Miller hotline, and for Tyler Vittmeyer making sure our video gets out there onto YouTube. Check that out there. And, of course, you can also hear The Drive every Monday through Friday from 4 to 6 p.m. right here on these very airwaves, where you can download the Steelers mobile app and watch the show on YouTube. I am Dale Lolley. We thank you for listening to this edition of The Drive on the Steelers Audio Network.
Steelers football happens here. The Pittsburgh Steelers Audio Network.